And you've been listening to the New Music Alliance Radio Hour. And I'm Mark Sherry. I'm here today with Mark Ramone and our special guest, Mal Thursday. And you just heard Vladimir Guerrero by Amy Sullivan and Nos Amours. Before that, we had the Not Quite doing Paint Me in a Corner. And we started out that block with Hal Blaine doing Topsy 65. So, Mal, tell us a little bit about this. Is to me, it's just an amazing tune that you wrote, Vladimir Guerrero,
Vladimir.
and you were hired by the Montreal Expos, who I have a particular connection to because I spent about 7 years in Montreal with Vladimir Guerrero as my hero too. So I want to hear your story about this.
Well, I grew up in northern New York, you know, South Canada, essentially, 10 minutes from the border, an hour and change from Montreal, so I saw all my big concerts at the Montreal Forum and, still like Le Canadien and Les Expos. And I would
Mm-hmm.
go up to Jarry Park with my dad and have wonderful bonding experiences, you know, on the
Jarry
way to the
Park was
game and
amazing.
we'd eat smoked meat and poutine and it was awesome. And I loved the Expos. And my dad was from Pittsburgh, so he raised me a Pirates fan. And my timing was terrible because I fell in love with the Expos in '79 when the Pirates beat him out for the division and won the World Series. Um, but I became friends with Bill Spaceman Lee and he played for us at Hampshire College on their Hampshire College baseball team, which is now defunct, sadly. But I would go up to Montreal and just I loved the Expos and I wanted to do something that might help them get a new stadium. So I wrote a song about Vladimir Guerrero, and originally it was about FP Santangelo. It was FP Santangelo, but uh, he wasn't as good. He wasn't nearly as good.
No.
And he was later implicated in the Mitchell report for steroid use. But so Vladimir Guerrero was the best player, one of the best players in the game at the time, and the Expos had him. And they weren't drawing well, and they had a new owner who was the song with me and produced with Jim Weeks playing drums, and it played on the jumbotron every season for like 3 years until it kept getting shorter because they would trade people out of the third verse and Felipe Alou got fired. But at the end, it was about 45 seconds. And then Vladimir left the Expos for the Angels, and that was that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that was a great team. And this song is just so cool. I love, is that your guitar in that?
I love the opening guitar.
Jim Weeks is playing drums. Paul Rocha is playing bass and guitar, and he helped arrange those harmonies with Amy. It's one of those things where you write a little melody and then it gets fleshed out and becomes another animal, just by that's the beauty of collaboration. And I love working with people from this region. I was just up in Cummington at Dragonfly Studio with Robert Sherwood. We were at Sonolab with Mark Allen Miller in 2019.
So before that, we had a song by the Not Quite, um, Paint Me in a Corner. And these guys are they're out of Hartford, Connecticut, and also Simsbury, Connecticut. And this is, to me, this is just epitomizes the 80s, garage rock sound with a little bit of a 60s sound to it as well. And yeah, these guys, this song in
Oh yeah,
particular.
the garage revival bands. We played with many of them. Liars, Flesh Tones, the Vipers, and we played with the Not Quite. I think a couple of times. I think we might have played with them at the Agora, and then I think we played with them at a club in Naugatuck, Connecticut, whose name escapes me. It was either like the Scotch Mist or the London Fog or the Fog Cutter. I, I can't recall, but it was in Naugatuck. And I was a little jealous because those guys really nailed that 1966 sound, and the singer, was able to clutch four maracas, two in each fist, and do the maracas thing, and I loved that. And I wanted my band to be more authentically 60s, and the other guys in the band were sort of rebelling against that notion, you know because it is limiting, but it's my period, and I've never left it. That's the sound I like.
So we started out that block with a tune by a real legend, Hal Blaine, out of Holyoke, Mass, doing Topsy 65s.
Yeah, Hal, Wrecking Crew, all that great session work on all those Birds and Beach Boys records. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, he played on everything, and just a great guy. And he got to headline, you know, as a live performer. He augmented his studio earnings by going out and playing, nightclubs, and was also releasing records as a band leader, of which this is one. Obviously from 1965. Topsy, the classic Cozy Cole instrumental, which one of the great drum. If you're a drummer, it's one of the great tunes that features drums.
And he certainly features drums in that. Yeah, and he has his great, his own interpretation of it, and it's got that great 60s kind of on the road sound to it, that song.
Reminds me of a Broadway Fosse number from the late 60s.
Yeah.
Right on. I love that stuff. And Hal Blaine, obviously he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer if they ever did a Western Mass or Western New England Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, his work with the Wrecking Crew is, will go on, for generations to come. That's for sure. Anyway, our next block, we got some great tunes. We're going to be hearing from Sebadoh, Spouse, and Zeke Fiddler. And we're starting out with Sebadoh doing Skull.